Good morning. Get myself situated here. Got my coffee. Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to the studio. It is the last week of September, and we're going to talk through everything that's happening. I've got some project examples to show you kind of where we're at in the process, and we'll wrap up September. You ready? Let's dive right in. Here we go. Preschool fundamentals is where we're going to start. We're going to start with some of the easy updates. First, your Monday class in Flatwoods, if you are in that preschool fundamentals class or that toddler art play class, you guys have class today. For everybody else this week, if you are in Tuesdays or Thursdays or Friday preschool classes, you do not have class. So if you come to the studio, it is very likely, come to Liberty, it'll just be me just sitting in the lobby doing computer work. If you go to Flatwoods, the doors just might be locked and nobody's there because we don't have anybody staffed for that because there aren't any classes. So we will send email reminders in addition to this email that says, hey, no class today or no class tomorrow. But just remember, mark it off on your calendar. Don't come this week unless you're in that Monday class today and you're headed out to Flatwoods to get your last class. You still have class. Everybody else, though, if you're in a preschool class, you guys have the week off, and we'll see you next week for October, okay? Same story with my creative explorations kiddos. So if you're in the Wednesday or Friday creative explorations classes, this is your off week. So you do not have class this week. Nobody does. Don't come. We won't be here. Actually, that's not true. Our staff might be here getting stuff prepped for October, but there won't be class, okay? So look forward to next month with you guys. We're going to be having a lot of clay sculpture stations set up, a lot of 3D exploration for all of the creative exploration stations. Multimedia classes, we're going to go through all of the projects. So everybody's finishing their projects this week. It's the last week of September. If you are new to the studio, every month in multimedia classes, we finish a project and we send it home. You probably haven't seen anything from your kids come home in the last 3 weeks. This will be the week that they take their stuff home. If they don't take it home, one of two things. Either they weren't finished with it and they're going to come in for a makeup and finish it, or they forgot. It's still sitting in the classroom, right? So we want to make sure that if it's done, it goes home. If it's not done because maybe they missed a class, maybe they work a little slower than their peers, all of that's okay. But if it's not done and it stays here, they need to make a reservation to come in either on a Wednesday or a Friday night, depending on which studio you're in, to come in and finish that project. When they come to class next week in October, there will be no time to work on the September projects. We've moved on. We've moved on to clay. Pastels will not be out. So in order to finish that project, if they don't take it home finished this week, make sure you sign up for a time to come in and wrap up that project, okay? And if you have questions about that, you can give me a holler. Let's look at some projects, shall we? They're down here on the floor because they just don't have enough table space. And I've got this one curl, you guys, today that wants to lay right in the middle of my forehead. Okay. I'm going to do the big ones first. See, look. So our K1s, second thirds, been working on these massive, giant chalk pastel paintings inspired by all clay painting called Castle and Sun. They got to make geometric shapes. They got to use rulers. They got to fill in all their spaces. So I'm going to show you some of the projects that we have going on. A lot of them are done or really, really close to done. They're also really hard for me to move around in here. Okay, so here's one. I think it goes this direction. Look at how good they did getting the whole thing covered. Now you might see some blank spots in here because it's green and I've got a green screen and a slideshow going on behind me. But look at how beautiful all of that is. That is a lot of work and a lot of time put into covering all of that and making it look like an opaque, almost painting. You'll notice all of them have tape around the outside. When we pull that off, there'll be a black border, which helps for framing or helps for like handling, so you're not touching on the actual chalk. It also helped us because then we can tape it down someplace when the kids are working. But the tape will be removed when they go home with it. Let's grab another one. This one definitely has the sky and the buildings established. A little bit more uncolored negative space. Can you see that where the black paper is showing through? We usually encourage the kids to fill that in, but we can't make them and we don't want to. So if they say, no, I like it the way it is, then that's what it is because they're the artist and it's their decision. So, so I don't know what the direction with this one is. I don't know if they just haven't gotten around to coloring their sky or if it's a night sky and it's going to stay that way. Here's another one. I love this one. It is much more abstract than the one we just looked at. It has almost this like Vasily Kandinsky vibe to it, which I dig. You can see it does have a lot of green on it. If I turn it sideways, if you can see some of the green. No, not really. There's a lot of over here. There's a lot of negative space, which I kind of dig, right? I don't know if the plan is to put anything over here or if this will stay kind of as breathing room for the picture. So totally up to the artist on whether or not they feel like this is done. I actually really, really love it. What a great use of a ruler. All right, so 3 very different examples of the castle and sun interpretation. One of the, I'm out of focus. One of my favorite things about our studio is that we give the children, the artists, the opportunity to interpret their own ideas, right? And put them down on paper as opposed to doing a step-by-step where they're actually following along with an instructor. I like that they get to make their own decisions. All right, I'm going to give you some examples of my 4th and 5th. I'm be really careful with these because they haven't been fixed with a spray yet. And so they smear really easily. And I don't want to smear somebody's artwork. So you remember my 4th and 5th graders were working and homeschoolers were working on portraiture. And this is kind of the progress that we have going on. We still have the background to do in this one. But this person has done an amazing job of getting coverage. It's really hard to get the lighter tones on the white paper, on the black paper, to be opaque. And that's a lot of chalk and a lot of coloring. We also have a beautiful like kind of gradient right here. There's some beautiful like rosy cheeks that have been blended in. So lots of great detail here. Here's another one. It's a fantastic interpretation of the lesson. Definitely more abstract, very playful. You can't tell in the video, but the black back here is not the paper showing through. That is actually black chalk pastel. I mean, the paper is black, but they've colored it black as well. So it's much darker than kind of the charcoal look. Can you tell the difference, right? And we have kind of an outer space theme going on. And then here's one more. This one is probably done. I would say, if anything, they might add some details on the face or around the eyes, but otherwise the entire thing is covered. So person would be done. I'm going to set this down. Now, our 4th and 5th and our homeschool portraits, as well as the ones I'm going to show you for the middle school, high school kids, they get finished with mats. And so I brought a mat board just to show you. The mats are pre-cut and they also have backer boards. So we'll sandwich the artwork between the mat and the backer board to finish it and to send it home. So that's another thing that they'll be doing this week is finishing their artwork with mats and backer boards. That's a common thing that we finish 2D art with here in the studio. So for a lot of them, the older kids especially, they're really familiar with that process to come up and mat and backer board their artwork. But they will be very familiar if they're not yet. All right, my middle school and high school kids have been doing that bird's eye view of a koi pond. And I wanted to show you some of the stuff that they have happening in class. Again, the green isn't going to show up all that great, but we have some amazing interpretations. Remember, they didn't have just one picture to look at. They had lots of different photographs and illustrations of koi fish and koi ponds. in order to like do their own research and create their own composition. So we have some really great stuff happening. This one here. Not great. So she has not, no, he, who is this? Yeah, she has not started, doing all the fish yet. The lily pads are done. They just show as white on my screen instead of green, but they're beautiful. Here's another interpretation. Now, I know for a fact, because this is my daughter, she missed a class, so she doesn't have, she's still kind of in the blocking in stage, but you can see she's got a lot more like movement and line work. I love what my teens that start to show their own mark and their own style. You know, art sometimes is like a fingerprint. We can, after enough time here in the studio, I can pull art for some of your kids without having a name because it looks like their art. It shows so much of their personality. Oh, gorgeous. So you can see compositionally, our big kids, they like, you know, this one has 2 fish, that one has 4 fish, that one has 3 fish. And they're all like moving throughout the page in different ways. And those are all decisions that they had to make, which I think is cool. So I'm going to set these down because I'm making a mess. But they look really great. There's tons of them back there. I just kind of grabbed the ones right off the top. And I wanted to make sure we had a good variety so you could see everything that was going on. So our multimedia, last thing I'm going to talk about is just kind of the finishing step. Like I said, those ones that are in the 9x12 2D, they're going to put them in a mat. Our K ones are not. Those big ones there, we don't have mat boards for. But they're on that really heavy duty roofing paper, so they should be good. They'll go home just like that. We'll take off the tape border, and that kind of gives them a little bit of a frame. The other thing that they'll work on is this right here. I mentioned it a little bit at the end of the video last week. Like, what's buzzing at me? It's Life 360. All right, so this right here is our like little gallery tag that we'll have the kids fill out. We started this last year because in 2021 we did an art show, and that we hadn't done one in a couple years because 2020 and all the things. So in 2021 we did an art show, and we had the kids like sign the work and like fill out their artist statement, and they were like, what am I doing? And they were very confused by it because they'd had a whole year and a half or 2 years of art classes and hadn't had to do this. And so now, ever since last year, at the end of every month, they do this. Even if this isn't the piece that's going into the art show, this is a great thing to fill out. So it's things like writing their name, right? They'll also sign their artwork somewhere. They're going to give it a title. They're going to make sure they date it. They're going to write down the media. They're going to write down the dimensions. And then they're going to write an artist statement telling their viewer about the artwork. How do they feel about the artwork? What were they think when they made it? What do they think now that it's done? What would they do differently? What did they learn in the process? What do they want the viewer to know about it? It can be anything in the statement, but it's just something to give a viewer like some insight into the artist's mind. So they'll write a little statement there. Now, my super young ones, my kindergartners especially, who are, a lot of them are pre-writers, will work with an instructor one-on-one, or they will work with our teen helpers one-on-one to dictate it so that we can write it for them. All right, so we'll help them out, but that way they can say something about their art. These get attached to the back. Okay. All right, checking my notes. I think that's it. Let's talk about some drawing classes. So my drawing 101 classes, it's like I put that sheet of paper down there. I knew I needed it for something. My drawing 101 classes, I couldn't find any of the books that I wanted to show you. So I'm going to show you something else. Last week, I told you they worked with Sumi ink, and hopefully you got to see a little bit of the pictures either on Instagram stories or on Facebook of the kids working with Sumi ink. This is a new lesson for us. We've done Sumi ink before in some of our multimedia classes. We've done it in our preschool classes, and we've always used a brush. I follow a bunch of artists on Instagram, a bunch of teachers on Instagram, and this one comes from Purple Twig. So if you follow Purple Twig on Instagram, you might have seen it. She has a book out called Drawing Workshop for Children's, which is amazing. And this is actually from her book. And rather than drawing with brushes, she draws with nibs. And so we've created our own nib using a straw. and it's a practice in making marks and texture and mark making. I also really love it because it slows our kids down, because this doesn't hold a lot of ink. So you got to go slow on your mark and you got to refill a lot. But I wanted to show you what it looked like. The kids got to play with this medium. They're going to see it a lot in drawing classes, in drawing 101 especially. I should have brought a clipboard because I don't have an overhead camera, but I'm going to try to. Yeah, that doesn't work because I've got, it needs gravity to go down. Let's see. Okay, ready? You get to see my really shaky hands, but you can see it makes this kind of long, straight, dark ink mark. And that's as far as I can get. I have really shaky hands. If I go sideways, I get a skinnier mark. So we practiced drawing with these nibs, and I thought it was a really great experience, and the Sumi ink. Part of our 101's goals is to make drawing new and novel every week, and to really kind of give them lots of chances to just explore mark making and to enjoy the process. So so we did this to do our contour, which is, I also give them a lot of vocabulary. Contour is the lines that we use to draw, or the outlines. And then we use charcoal and vine charcoal or willow charcoal to give us the grayscale. So we were doing faces. And so you'll see, like when you look at my face, and the dark areas are here underneath my chin, right? There's also a dark area right here. There's a darker area set into my eyes and a little bit on my cheekbones. And we're just trying to get them to see values. We're not looking for a full value scale like we do in 102. We just want them to start to realize, like as a light bulb aha moment, that that there are values within an object. So anyway, so that gave us both our contour and our values and a chance to play with that media. In this week's lesson for our drawing 101s, we're going to work on symmetry and the concept of symmetry. We're still doing portraiture. This is the last week that we'll do on portraiture. They're going to warm up using both hands and drawing. So we'll give them a marker and a marker in 2 different colors, and we will draw objects that are symmetrical. So things like vases, things like butterflies, and the goal will be when one hand moves, the other hand moves the same way, right? So we could draw a face that way, right? And we already did contour drawing without lifting up our paper, or lifting up our pen from the paper. Remember, that was our warm up in week 2. So we've already introduced that concept. So this will just be adding to it, where they use 2 markers. It uses both sides of your brain. It's really good for you. When we actually get to the drawing lesson, we're going to be doing half and half drawings, and we've got all these great half people. So we're going to take our half people. This one looks like me. She's got hair like me. We're going to glue them or tape them into our journals, and we are going to draw the other half of the people with using the rules of symmetry. Okay. So that's our drawing lesson for today, or for this week, for drawing 101s. I'm going to put these back before I lose them. All right, and I'm also going to get rid of my ink before I make a mess. Sumi ink is not washable. Let's talk about drawing 102s. All right, so both my drawing 102 classes did portraiture last week. They 102 comic class, like, man, they knocked this out of the park. We were really impressed with some of the stuff that they came up with. 101s also did portraiture, self-portraiture. They looked in a mirror to draw themselves. And with our 102s, we really are pushing a value scale. So we're looking for more than just like pencil and paper value. We're looking for paper, gray, a little bit darker gray, almost black, right? We're looking for the whole scale of at least 5 values. And that's something that they will get from us for a long time. Portraiture gives us a chance to do that. So, and in an hour and a half, that's a lot to do, because portraits are hard. It's still a benchmark month, and so my 102s will get to do this lesson again. You see they've got their little lesson slips on there that says what the lesson was and what the goals were. These are some of my comic ones. They had to do the same thing. They had to look in a mirror and they had to draw themselves, but they had to interpret it as a cartoon. So they have an added step where my 102s, they're simply drawing what they see. My 102 realistic, my 102 comic are having to stylize it and draw themselves as a cartoon. I love the line weights. I can tell that they're not done with it, but we've started line weights, right? Which are important. Another really good one. Some of them are more comic, some of them are more manga, some of them are more cartoon. Those are all different styles of drawing. Not bad, not good, not better, not worse, just different styles. Okay. My 102 classes this week, this is the 4th week of the month, and this is something we will do every 4th week. It's called Wild Card. And the Wild Card week is a chance for them to go back through the book or back through their lessons and either finish a lesson. So for that self-portrait lesson, again, 90 minutes is a really short period of time. That self-portrait lesson, if they wanted to finish inking and add color because they didn't get around to it, this is the week to do that. If they wanted to restart one, maybe they struggled with it and they want to do it again. Maybe they want to refresh a lesson. Maybe they want to get help on something. Maybe they're working on something on their own and they want an instructor to take a look at it. All of those things are done in our wild card week. So we've got, it's not a class party. It's not a free for all. It's still work time. And we will create a lesson if we need to, because we've got lots of them. But the goal really is for them to dive into what they need to work on or what they want to work on. This is based off of feedback that we had a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, that they felt like they never got to finish anything in their journal. And so we want to give them the time to work on that. So that's what this week is for. We started it last year and had really good feedback on it. So this will be this year's first wild card week. And both the 102 classes will have that. We did do wild card week last year in 101s, and we found that they were not as motivated to go back and work in their journals on a lesson they've already done or revisit a lesson. So we are planning week 4 lessons for the 101s. For the week 2s, we're going to keep the wild card. Okay. All right, week 3 projects are going great, and I did not grab any to show you, but I can't wait to take pictures for social media. Again, I think we mentioned in last week's video, there's probably about 30 to 40% of them who are going to need more time because of the pace that they work, because of their attention to detail, whatever, they're going to need more time with their drawings. And so we will have instructors telling them, come on in on this day, or come on in on Wednesday or Friday, or for makeups. We've also told these kids, because they are our older teens, that for a lot of them, they, especially if there's only 1 or 2 of them, can come in before class and just have an extra time. You can sit somewhere in the classroom and work on your drawing as long as you're not annoyed by the class that's going on. Or you can come in and work in my office. You can come in and work in my lobby. I don't care. But just communicate to us if you need that, so that way you can get your projects done. They will also fill out that gallery tag, which I set down here on the floor, but where they'll title their artwork, they'll write an artist statement, dimensions, media, all that stuff. Okay. And theirs are finished with those same map boards. All right, couple things in housekeeping. Are you ready? I got to pull up my notes. All right, first things first. If you need to make changes to your enrollment, I need to know like now, okay? So if you're switching classes because soccer practice got moved, or if you need to take a break for the next couple of months because basketball is starting, I mean, whatever's going on, and I know juggling the family schedule is craziness, but if you need to make changes, let me know, like as soon as you know, with a quick email, even if you're like, pretty sure we're going to need to change, but I don't know what it is. Let's get that conversation started so that I can start freeing up spots or finding spots to put you guys in, okay? So different class, different time, different studio. If changes need to happen, let's get that figured out this week, okay? Or at least start the conversation. The best way to reach me for that is going to be an email. Just reply to something I've already sent, or shoot me one at Allison@orangeeaselart.com. Okay. All right. Let's see. Next reminder. Remember, no preschool classes Tuesday through Friday. No creative exploration classes this week. We'll see you next week. And then also just save the date. Those of you who are taking classes in October, you are invited to our fall party. We'll talk more about what it is. It's super fun. It's free and it's open to you. Okay. It happens on Sunday afternoon, and we have a great time celebrating the kind of the start of the season and kickoff of the year and all the things. Okay. Hang on. Turn that off. We don't need me talking in the background of me, right? All right. And that's everything. So that's all I have. I hope you guys have a great week. As we wrap up this month, I hope that that everybody gets fall temps. That's what I'm ready for. We survived the craziness of the storm yesterday, Tuesday, no, 2 days ago, right? Saturday, I was without power for nearly 24 hours at my house, which is fine because the studios didn't lose power, and that's what matters. So, so I'm really excited that that October is coming because it's one of my favorite months, and we're going to have some great things happening. Next week's video, we'll talk about all of the October curriculum, show project examples, and get excited about play projects and spooky drawings and all sorts of good things. Okay. Have a good rest of your day, everybody. See you later.